All right. Welcome into the half. My name is Erich Montgomery, and you can find me over at oursuccessgroup.com. And as per usual, not all the time, but as per usual, this fine, either I'm not here or right. No, but
Yep.
Mr. Erich Campbell, and you can find him at erichcampbell.com. So good Friday morning to you, Eric.
Hi, good Friday morning to you, sir. I'm glad to be here. Like I always say, it's like it's better than the other option.
That's right.
So
Not being here,
not being here
right?
is the other option. So it's kind of like whenever I talk to somebody about how busy we are, you end up kind of having everybody has this cult of busy kind of attitude. Not that we
Cult,
aren't very busy,
the cult
but
of busy.
this whole idea that we jump in and go, oh man, I'm so busy, it's so terrible, so busy. I'm like, well, it's a lot better than the other option, which is being forced to not have anything to do.
Yes,
Or,
exactly.
it's a
Not
lot
being
better to
busy.
be busy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. All right. Well, so good morning, Ramona. Thank
Good
you
morning,
for
Rona.
being here, and hello to you as well,
Indeed.
Eric. So let's dive right in. We've got 30 minutes. We
Sure.
don't need to beat around the bush here, so to speak. But let's start with this. We just had a fantastic opportunity to talk to Mr. Johnny Shell from Key Point Intelligence. We know him. I know him mostly when he was with SGIA, and so
Yeah,
some
indeed.
people might more familiarized with him, but he said he's been there about a year and a half now. And anyhow, the conversation was about this forecast that he put together about the digital textile marketplace. And so
Yeah.
really great nuggets of information shared, really great opportunity to kind of think bigger picture and look into our magic crystal ball, so to speak, or his magic crystal ball in this case.
Well, that's the thing for him. This isn't magic crystal ball time.
Yeah.
Johnny's out there doing actual research. So if you think about what Key Point Intelligence is doing, he really is bringing up data points and doing surveys. So if you ever wonder, I know some of us have seen like, oh, here's this white paper about what's going on in the future, and it always seems like, what? Who could be doing that? What's going on? Well, Johnny's doing that.
Yeah, that's
He's
Johnny
actually
Shell.
Johnny Shell. He's actually compiling stuff. So I've met one of the people who does that.
Yeah, now
But
you
it
can say.
was interesting in that he was coming with real data, and
Yeah.
that's something that we don't always see because as much as we made a joke of it, I mean Terry made a joke of it, especially on two other guys this morning. That
Terry making a
we
joke? Unheard
Terry,
of.
yeah, Terry taking something and wasn't being serious, of course. But yeah, the concept that we come up with these ideas about what's going to happen in the next year, and it's all just based on kind of gut feelings, as you said, and kind of the experiences we have talking to the decorators. And though it is certainly a form of forecasting, and we are bringing in some data points in that we do talk to people, um, it is interesting to hear Johnny bring it up because he's actually got some formal, some formal structures and frameworks that he's
Yeah.
working on to bring that data together.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of takeaways from today's
Yeah, that's
episode.
I'm curious your takeaways for sure.
Oh, well, I'll say this much. I didn't know how, honestly, I don't want to say it like this. It sounds terrible. How little and how much um, DTG, direct to garment printing, direct to substrate printing, if you want to call it that too, because he was talking about home decor and other subjects that aren't
Mhm.
garments particularly.
Yeah.
Um, how little it was percentage wise of the industry, but then I thought about how massive our industry is, and it's still a tremendous amount of volume of actual product moving. Because I mean, he was saying it's a percentage between 5 and 10% of the industry currently.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly we could look at that and say, wow, that's not as much as I thought it would be because we saw digital is really coming up and becoming so much of what we do.
Yeah.
But then you think about how entrenched and how big the industry and how short of a time digital has been around. And that's still a pretty big chunk of the industry. That's a big chunk for it to have
Yeah.
taken over. And honestly, it's probably as small as it's ever going to be. That percentage. That's all. So like we say about
Good point.
AI. When we talk about AI, one of the phrases you hear a lot, especially when people are talking about kind of being afraid of what can do, is say, "Oh well, it is currently the worst it's ever going to function. It's doing the
Yeah.
least it's ever going to do right now.
Yeah.
So if anything it's doing right now is of concern to you, you should be thinking ahead because it's at its lowest version right now.
Yeah.
It will only be expanding from here, and I think that's probably true of digital print in one way or another, especially with the introduction of direct to film.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing that's very interesting is that hearing him talk about direct to film not only as a disruptor for direct to garment printing, but as a disruptor for other transfer processes.
Yeah.
And that was interesting too, because even though you tacitly think this stuff, having heard it, put more formally is certainly
Yeah.
something to consider. You're like, all right, now the white toner transfer kind of crew, the people who are buying or who are doing other methods of stream print transfer
Yeah.
going to direct to film. And especially because we know that anyone with a heat press becomes a printer.
Yeah.
If they can get a direct to film or direct to whatever, the direct to
Yeah.
film transfer, they can get any manner of other heat press transfers.
Yeah.
They can print whatever they need to print, but
Yeah.
that opens up that market for DTG style decoration. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see that. And certainly I think when we got to the end, some of the stuff that we commented on, you guys were commenting on, two other guys, was interesting. It had to do with the sustainability, the whole
Yeah.
concept of circularity, the concept of garments lasting longer, and that's something I'm seeing in the embroidery space too. Not to put too fine a point on it, people are redecorating things. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the deal.
Upcycle,
We
right?
are
Is that kind of that idea?
upcycling, yeah,
Yeah.
upcycling. In the crafter world, we had this whole kind of initial burst of people doing what we called visible mending, which was decorative mending of damaged clothing.
Mm,
So in
interesting.
the craft and home world, that was more of a thing, but it kind of went into the art style world. And even then, I saw people then using embroidery machines to offer visible mending almost as a service. So people were
Gotcha.
doing it. Now, it wasn't a ton of people. It's not a mass movement. I don't think that we're going to see this. Like, you're not going to see a high street shop with somebody offering, digital, versions of mending anytime soon.
Yeah.
But I will say, when we look at the not only the resurgence but the continued strength of patches in the embroidery world, patches also lend themselves very well to covering up previous
Mm,
decorations that were there. And also, you can remove decorations in a way that might be slightly destructive, because embroidery, it's destructive to remove it. Whenever you remove it, there's going to be holes left over. Yes, you can make it better or worse depending on how it's done or the design itself. It's
yeah.
super time consuming. If you can put a patch over it that doesn't feel too tremendously heavy, then it's a much better option for reusing
Mm,
garments. And we've been doing it in workwear forever. I mean, I can't tell you how long it's been that people have either reused garments, and we're just moving name badges is a big thing on company uniform stuff. That's
okay.
pretty normal to reuse garments and uniform programs.
Uh-huh.
But there's also tons of people where they may move from company to company inside of a segment. The
Okay.
one that kind of surprises people is I used to do tons of real estate, and the agents would move from real estate company to real estate company
Really? Okay.
fairly often. And expensive outerwear was somewhere where they're like, okay, I've got this fairly expensive outerwear, fairly expensive jacket. It's got the logo from the company I just worked at, but I am now with a new branded company, and I'm, franchising or DBA. I
Yeah.
was with this company, now I'm with this one,
No, yeah, yeah.
and I want to go ahead and put that logo on there. What can I do to save this, $200 blank, essentially $200 jacket that I
Yeah.
have that was digitized and embroidered with my logo. So there's tons of that. We did that all the time. Now it's being done for different reasons. It's like
Huh.
previously it was really expensive people doing this stuff. It was more it was people trying to get expensive garments. Now I'm seeing also people saying, hey, I want a nice high quality garment from the get-go, and I'm expecting that I may change the decoration later.
Yeah.
So that's that I'm seeing, and it's kind of interesting him talking about that circularity. He was talking about recycling the same materials back into that
Yeah.
into the process. But for me, I'm like, okay, reuse, longer term use, passing something down to higher quality blanks. I am seeing some of that, certainly, as he said, with his discussion and his insights into this, his research into this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever side you come onto this thing,
Uh-huh.
um, customers, and this is something I'll say, my idiosyncratic kind of information, my experience of this, customers want and believe they want sustainable garments and those kinds of options until you quote them the prices, and then they very quietly say, what other options are there? And what other
Yeah.
options are there means that their budget, it really won't hold up to it, or
Yeah.
that they're not willing. And
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to find ways to make the case for it. If we want it, if it's important to us, we're going to have to make the case for it. Though I do also agree with Johnny that there's probably going to be more desire for this as kind of the generations change over as
Yeah.
to who are the primary buyers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Where's the money coming from? And right now, like I said,
Yeah,
that's going to
yeah,
change. Okay. Yeah,
100%.
that's really good stuff. I appreciate you sharing all of your take on that. I love all of those points. And let's say good morning here real quick though. Before
Yes.
we get too much further away, Lisa is going to have gills soon. So Hopefully you've got a boat at least. And Sunrise Tactical Gear. Good morning.
Good morning.
Ramona said you were talking about patches there,
Yeah,
Eric. At Dax Tinley, there was this year there was a vendor selling patches, and not your typical satin or marrow border patches. They were very thin, no border other than a trip, run, stitch, and laser cut. They were very light and very versatile. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. We kind of think of patches in one way. We think of the classic marrow border souvenir patch, but patches can be a lot of things. And in fact, the concept of an applique, though we think of applique as the traditional, applique material. We think of like tackle twill lettering. We think of that sort of thing as an applique. If you look overall into the world of this, if you're someone who like my mom was a sewist or seamstress, whichever one you love for that term, and I've been in more fabric stores than you'd like to think beyond my experience as an embroiderer.
Yeah.
And back in the day, you'd see appliques, which were kind of like they were freestanding embroideries that were etzed. Etzing is a chemical process of melting away the background material previous to having things like water soluble materials. And there'd be freestanding embroideries that were meant to be applied to garments. It's a really normal thing. You'd buy them like off the rack. You'd have these pre-made pieces, florals and stuff like that mostly at the time, but also things that we would consider now to be standard embroideries. That's a pretty normal concept. You can do these freestanding thread only or very light patches, and with laser cut patches and printed patches, we're seeing a resurgence of, if not a resurgence, we're seeing a flowering of all these options in heat press, especially where we're seeing like thinner printed patches that maybe have an embroidered element. They might have a slim satin border, but most of the multicolor stuff is printed. We're seeing edged woven patches. There's a million kinds of patches out there, and lots of them that are combining media to make these interesting surfaces and textures and decorative elements. But yeah, they're being used for all kinds of things, and you don't have to have a thick or thin patch. I've always told people that I made these really thin patches. Not everybody loves them because I tend to not put a lot of support material in them. Back in the day, I was making them for wardrobe. They're supposed to look like they've been worn for a little while. I can't have them be absolutely brand new and stiff. It was better for them to be a more malleable patch.
Yeah.
But I remember very distinctly teaching a guy patches, and he's like, no, what I do is all like death metal bands. Everything I do is like hardcore metal bands. They want their patches to feel like cardboard. So I put like 3 layers of different materials together and then heat seal it so that they're really hard. And he's like, I want really stiff, hard patches. And all of that entire continuum is represented. You can have any manner of those patches and use them in multiple different ways, including, like I said, doing appliques and things like that too, doing other kinds of methods with the patch. So it's kind of cool. It's cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that information.
I'm just talking my head off. Sorry about that.
No, that's all good, man. I love it. I love it. And this is what I love about Eric is you're so good at encompassing all of this, right? We just start off saying, hey, Eric, we talked about this DTG and direct report. What's your take on it? And all of a sudden we're talking about embroidery. So, I love
that's because anything you talk about with me turns into embroidery.
That's why you're embroidery, man. Eric, man. Like, come on, let's be real.
And honestly, because I think that we have more in common than we don't.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot that comes together, and I think that
absolutely
multimedia, especially, I'm seeing more of it, or at the very least, I'm seeing people who are maybe tied to one form of media being less likely just to say, hey, this is the only way to do things.
Yeah.
Like I remember a time where screen printers were looking at DTG and sticking out their tongues and being unhappy with people using DTG because it's crap and it's not the real printing. And I think that's the same thing that happens sometimes. We're like, no, embroidery is a fine thing. It's for luxury garments. And I still feel that way in certain garments, certain places, but I think I'll make more room there. Like I would have definitely, if you caught me 10 years ago and said, all right, we're putting a bunch of prints on hats. I'm like, man, printed anything on a hat. I would have fought with you a little bit, like, unless you have a technical reasons why, I'm not into that.
Yeah.
And I have moved far past that and said, all right, I have seen all of these cool embossed and molded options, as well as, woven patches and multimedia and sublimation in ways that I think, they're valuable depending on what you want. There's just so many different styles of decoration out there. And, that's what I said. Just like, let them all bloom, man. Let all these seeds fruit at this point. We could have so many options for everybody.
Yeah. Yep, and you're really good at that, and definitely carry the flag for embroidery in a lot of ways, which does
Hey,
get, I mean, we just had this kind of all encompassing decorating conversation with Johnny, and yeah,
yeah.
embroidery didn't come up, so I'm glad that you bring it up. So, in fact, I agree wholeheartedly with Lisa here. Yes, Eric has so much information on all decorating styles and speaks to integrate us into one family. So. I feel like we
All
should have a hug or something.
Hey, we're all doing such similar stuff, and I
Yeah.
love to see all these people here. In fact, I want to say hi to somebody who's here on the LinkedIn channel, which is awesome. Joe Kramer, who's over at Amber Creative now, but has done awesome work in the
Yeah.
retail space with applique. I mean,
Yeah.
by the way,
As you were talking about some of that stuff, I'm going, man,
talk, Joe.
Joe knows.
We can talk about some stuff, Joe. But at the same time, I'm like, man, we have such a wide range of the kinds of decorations that are done at different stages in the apparel process in different segments. And it's kind of cool to see where they all fit. In fact, what I love about what Amber does, what Joe's doing with Amber now, is they take so much of what is possible in retail and bring it into the merch and promotional products world, where a lot of that really, I think, it's stagnated for many years. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there was no creative work out there. I think we did some creative work. I saw creative work, but I remember the difficulty in earlier days of telling someone, here's this retail style process. I want to do this thing that has a wash away support material. And there was literally no acceptance to the point of, we won't let you wash a garment, even though that's what we want. We want the look, but we can't wash a garment before we get it in because of, it'll lose its finish and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember people not being willing to get outside of that box for a long time. Whereas now, like Johnny said on Two Other Guys, you can't have this 18-month cycle. Everyone's aware of retail decoration. Everyone's aware of what merch is. Nobody is unaware of multimedia. They might not know what to call it or ask for, but they have seen and want,
Yeah.
truthfully, stuff that we would have considered retail or fashion or
Yeah.
streetwear. That stuff is now, it is commonplace for someone to know a little bit of design, a little bit of higher end material, a little bit of what's going on in other spaces. It's much more common. And like
Yeah.
like I said, like we saw in Two Other Guys earlier, it's not on an 18-month cycle. It's
Yeah.
on a 3 month, 6 month cycle that trends are moving and changing.
Yeah.
So it's
Agreed.
worthwhile for us to, but and that's also why it's worthwhile for us in the embroidery space to understand that digital and print are an option too,
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure.
Love it. Joe says, kind words, sir. Great to see you both this morning. Yes, we learn all the time how to integrate all the multimedia techniques. Yes, we carry the flag for them all. Yep. There you
Yeah,
go. Good job.
got to do
Good
it.
job, you guys.
Got to
All
do
right.
it.
Well, Eric, anything else about Two Regular Guys that you wanted to toss in there? Are we ready to
If I
move
said
on to the
anything about that,
next segment?
what I'll say is, hey guys, go check out keypointintelligence.com and see what
Yeah.
Johnny Shell is putting together. He's putting together real data. If you're in that business world that's a little bit further up the chain where you need to know this stuff and want to forecast, go see what he's doing. It's worthwhile.
Yeah.
And if you're not,
Yep.
hey, listen in anyway. It's interesting whether or not you're someone who's going to play in
Yeah.
that space.
Well, I just felt like it was a really great opportunity for the listeners to kind of let's get the bigger picture. You had mentioned earlier kind
Oh
of
yeah.
how small of a segment that really is, but when you think about it, it's small percentage wise of something we don't realize how big it is. The point he made about
Mhm.
the fact that purchasing apparel in e-commerce is the
That is
number one thing
wild.
people are
Yeah.
buying now
That
over
was,
consumer electronics. That's
yeah.
pretty crazy.
Oh, and honestly, even within that, the concept of the growth potential, number one, that's another thing. The concept that we have so much growth potential for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a couple things. Number one, Mr. Johnny Shell, who's doing this high level stuff, was taking into account small and home office businesses. He called them SOHOs.
Yeah.
So he was like single operator home office businesses. He was taking those into account. So the other
I
thing
need
to
to write that
remember is
down, by the way.
when we
Soho, I like
talk, yeah, totally. When we talk
that.
about this industry, folks, and we talk about these percentages, you're in. I might be talking about, oh, maybe we don't all need forecasting because we might be small shops. Remember, number one, that the forecasters are looking at you because you are part of the segment. And then think about that. We are part of the segment. We are also a driver in this industry. And I'll say this, even if we're not big shops in and of ourselves, I know this very personally. The single home operators and the craft side of this world is a driver as a mass that
Oh, for sure.
absolutely makes a difference. We make
Yep.
a difference in that space. Those of us who are at smaller shops, and even I'll say I came from like a medium sized shop. every time people go, "Oh, Eric ran at a big shop." I've seen big shops. No, I didn't. There are very large producers. I was not at a very large producer. I
Yeah.
was at a local medium-sized shop.
Yeah.
We all have segments that are interesting, and honestly, like I said, the data people, they want to know about all of what we're doing because everything plays into how that
Yeah.
overall segment moves.
Yep, for sure. Love it. All right. Well, Eric, weekly wins, right? What's an accomplishment that you like to celebrate?
Mhm.
And this is an opportunity for you guys that are tuned in now to just share whatever shows up for you. Whatever, there's no judgment as to how big, how small, blah, blah, blah. That stuff doesn't matter. What matters is this is a accomplishment that you feel good about, that you want to share, that you're, and the more of these accomplishments we share, the better off we are, because our brains work on this dopamine reward system, and that
Yep.
sharing that opportunity to celebrate is lighting up that dopamine reward system, and our brain goes, oh, I want more of that.
Heck
So
yeah.
anyhow, but that's why we want to put this stuff out here. So Eric, I don't know, I normally make you go first.
Why don't you go first?
I can go first if you want.
Sure.
So the book is, all of the text of all of the chapters is written. I need
Nice.
to do,
Nice.
like, not going to be the final edit, but I need to kind of edit the last two chapters still. But all the text is there. It's about 100 words or so, right? Or not 100. It's 100-word book. It took me 2 years to write. Sorry, 100,000 words.
Nice. Nice.
So that's my big win, is not done, but the text is there.
That's
So
massive. That's massive.
yeah, my goal is to this weekend try to see what I can do, because my next step is I'm going to start putting it out there as a digital to kind of get feedback from folks and
Sure.
whatnot, and then kind of get into the final edit, actually have a real editor take and go, this doesn't make any sense, let's make this make sense.
Well, hey man, the content. That's the thing. Writing starts everything. I think that's
Yeah.
people forget. Writing is the
Yeah.
beginning of so many things. It's awesome,
Yeah.
man. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And before we get to yours, Eric, here, let's Sunrise
go.
Tactical Gear 200-piece hat order from a second.
Let's go, man. 200-piece
there
hat
we
order.
go.
That's good.
Boom. Let's go.
Good.
I love
Let's
it.
go, man.
Yeah, perfect.
Nice.
Perfect. Very
All
good.
right.
All right, your turn, Eric. And everybody else jump in there.
I'll give you a couple of them for sure.
Yes.
In
I like
the
it.
education writing world for me, I turned in an article fully on time for something, which is, if you guys know me, I may or may not sometimes turn things in late, because I'm always thinking I can do more than I can with my time. So I did that. And the second thing is, which makes me pretty happy about it, I booked a couple of articles in places I usually don't get to write for. And so coming up in the next couple months, you'll just see me in several places all at once. That was really cool. So
Yes.
yeah, and some articles that were actually more in my space. Here's the thing. Sometimes I get asked to write a lot of articles that I know enough about, but aren't just me dyed in the wool, my thing. And a couple of these things that I'm getting to write are absolutely about stuff I know and really feel about. So that was really cool to get to do. So that was those were my big wins on that side. Other big wins we got, I got some nice advertising stuff done, and like I said again, plumbing, some e-commerce plumbing that was working hard. We are getting into some really great things as far as some protections and things for some of our big e-commerce channels. So that's always nice. You got to. It's the unfortunate stuff you have to work on. If you've been in the e-commerce world, you know there are people gunning for you at all times. So good to work on that back end and safeguarding your e-commerce channel as well. So that stuff moving ahead. Still lots of work to do, but all moving ahead.
Yes, indeed. Celebration. All right, cool.
Thank you much.
So that's what we're doing, folks. We're celebrating some wins here. So keep sharing those. Ramona's got one here. I'm passing on my white toner printer income stream to my stepdaughter. I'm helping her understand running a Soho business. I love that. I did write that down. Build a website, create content. We have a 6-month goal to relaunch the website. So awesome. I love it.
Awesome.
Congratulations. Jorito, thank you for checking in here and tuning in. So what's happening? Yeah, it's happening. Sunrise Tactical, 100 embroidery, 100 laser leatherettes sewn on my post bed sewing machine. There you go.
Nice. Post bed. Like I always tell people, as much as people don't want to get into the manual stitching, that is the gold standard for putting hats or putting patches on hats. It is the hand guiding. I know everybody's like, oh, is there an automated way? And Yes and no, but boy, that post bed makes it nice and crisp. It puts a line
Yeah.
right where you want it.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Yeah. That's super cool. Cool. All right. Well,
Nice.
yeah, congratulations on all that. If you guys have other things that you want to share, please do, and just keep those wins coming in. Again, there is actual science behind this, and it's been proven that because I find for myself, Eric, right, that
Yeah.
I like thinking about going back to the book, just because that's
Yeah.
the thing that I can share because it's close to me. Here is I could sit there and go, well, I'm not done with it, and
Yeah.
just be like,
Yeah.
but the reality is, if I can celebrate those little things along the way, then the likelihood of me getting it done quicker and faster is going to be way greater because that excitement is there. The brain goes, yep, dopamine, want that. Let's do that. How do we get more of that? Oh, write some more. Cool. Oh, spend some time. Right. So,
Yeah.
focusing on your wins and in a way that, it causes you to celebrate. I'm not saying you got to take and pop the confetti cannon each time, right?
No,
uh,
it's not good if you make it feel too much like it's done when it's not. I mean, that's not good.
Correct. But it's
Being
just about
realistic is
saying,
good.
hey, that's an accomplishment. Don't forget to give yourself a little pat on the back there.
Yeah.
So that way that attaboy will help you, or attagirl, and whatever the case may be, that'll help you continue to move forward. So,
Well, and
um,
I'll say this too, on the opposite side, somebody who does have quite a lot of negative self-talk. I'll be honest about that. I get a little too confessional on the half, but here we go again.
I love it,
Uh,
man. I
I have
love
a
that
lot
I
of
bring that
negative
out in you here.
self-talk. I beat myself up a lot. From somebody who does that, there is nothing to kill your motivation like trying to convince yourself that something's never going to get better. If you continually say it's not done, it's not better, it's not good enough, eventually you'll believe that. Like there
Hmm.
there comes a point where you'll be like, well, if it's never going to be good enough, why am I kicking out any effort? Why am I
Yeah.
working on this thing?
Yeah.
You got to safeguard yourself from that one. So I'm not
Yeah.
saying, yeah, I'm all about celebrating your wins. I think but the thing is, the negative side's not realistic either.
Yeah.
People are always saying, "Oh, be realistic. Keep your feet on the ground. Don't be, celebrating before you hit the finish line." And I get that, and I agree. Don't celebrate the complete finish before it's
Yeah. This
done.
is not a
This is not.
showboat.
No, we're not showboating. At the
Uh-uh.
same time, constantly telling yourself it's not good enough, it's never going to get done, you can't do it. Of course you can. Of course you can. It
Yeah.
might not be exactly how you felt like it should be. It might not look the way you want it to. It certainly isn't going to be just triumph after triumph. That's just, I'm
Yeah.
trying not to laugh on that, but hey, that is how the life really works. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
bumps in the road, but the negative side of it is just as unrealistic as
Yeah. Yeah.
the uber positive is unrealistic. The uber negative is unrealistic.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Well, and I think it's almost,
better way.
yeah. And I think it's almost like again, it's like, it's not a, yes, I'm out,
Mhm.
so awesome, I'm done kind of thing. Like you said, it's not that, but it's that you got this.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
keep
It's
this momentum
momentum.
going,
Heck
right?
yeah. Heck
That's
yeah.
the celebration, is an affirmation of the fact that you're moving in the right direction.
And also to look back and say, remember those moments where I thought I wasn't going to be able to do that? Did it. I've
Guess
got
what?
proof. The
We
next
got,
time I'm
yep,
like, got
yep,
100% success rate in getting up every day. Like
yeah,
that's we got to keep rolling. We
yeah.
can go through this.
And wherever you need to start, then that's where you
Yeah.
start, and then you just
Yeah.
keep moving forward. So love it. So
Like no time for
challenges,
challenges.
Q&A time. What do you guys have? What's going on for you? What are the challenges that you're faced with right now? We didn't leave ourselves a lot of time, but we'll do our best here.
I'll say one word for myself: consistency. Consistent. 2 words: consistency and priorities. Those are always my challenges, and I am absolutely feeling that.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
to maintain that, especially when you have to shift patterns, and that is where I'm at right now.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and sometimes in that, right, it's just, and I'm terrible at this. I get a couple of emails yesterday, and I'm going, oh my god, those are so cool opportunities, and I
Yeah.
couldn't
Yep. Yep.
wait
Yep.
to say yes, and then I start going, wait a second, what am I saying yes to? Well, it seems like a cool opportunity. I like to be at the cool kids table.
Yep.
Is this really going to serve me, or am I putting
Oof.
too much on the plate to where important things
Priorities.
start falling off? So
Priorities are
I feel
hard.
you. I feel you, brother. I'm
It's
right
for
there with
real.
you. When you figure that out, let me know, and we'll figure this out together.
I think I'm almost on the secret to figure out all of your priorities all at once, right? So I think what you do, you write down your list of all the things that are coming in, you have an intake list, and then Nobody believed I knew that.
Yeah, I think it was bad that I was giggling before it happened. I think that was the giveaway, but
I had to set that one up. That was too easy. You're
it
like,
was
you
good. It
figured it
was
out.
perfect.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, you guys have a great rest of your week. Celebrate those wins and let us know if there's any challenges we can help you with. So we love supporting others. Eric, great to see you, sir.
Good to be on, guys.